Well, hello, good evening, and good day to everybody. Welcome to Assessing Truthfulness and Credibility for Coaches with Joseph O'Connor. It is a pleasure to welcome you, and on behalf of the ICC, thank you very much for being here on time. Now, without further ado, I will welcome Joseph O'Connor. Joseph, can you hear us properly?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Abigail.
Hi, Joseph.
Hi, everybody. Okay, so thanks, Abigail. Abigail's kind of in charge of the administration here. As I can't do everything all at once, I shall concentrate on talking about truthfulness and credibility for coaches. So welcome. I'm in Tokyo at the moment, where it is just after 9 o'clock in the evening. So we're a little bit different time zone. I know you're 1 o'clock there in England. Can I just check that you can hear me, please? Could you raise your hand if you can hear me? Good. Thank you, Dinah. Thank you, Jill. Raise your hand, please, everybody. Still a few people to do that. Julian, can you hear me? Okay, well, the one person hasn't raised their hand. I'm going to make a leap of faith and say this is due to technology malfunction rather than ear malfunction, and that Julian can hear me. So let's make a start. I think it's remarkable that I can do this from Tokyo. You can be in England, and Abigail, I think, is in Ireland. So we're pretty multinational. So we're going to do a short webinar. It's going to be, I guess, about an hour altogether. I'm going to talk for about 45 minutes or so, 50 minutes maybe, then time for some questions. And this is basically going to be about what we see there, about assessing truthfulness and credibility with particular interest in coaching, as I know that you are, and I know that you're from Association of Coaching. This is a course that myself and Andrea Larges are going to be giving through the Association of Coaching in June, which I'm going to call ETAC, which stands for Evaluating Truth and Credibility. So I find this particularly fascinating, I've got to say. It's not like, as coaches, that we are likely to be faced with people who will lie to us. This would be against their interest. You know, they've hired us, they're paying us money in order to help them. So it's not likely that they're going to tell us outright lies. However, because of various social pressures, because of keeping up appearances, and indeed, you know, things like self-deception, which is a topic in itself. It may not be that what you hear is, shall we say, exactly what is going on. So I find this whole thing about credibility, how credible someone is, how congruent they are, really fascinating. And because it's to do with communication, which is the lifeblood of us as coaches, it's really useful. And because that communication channels that we have, the words that we speak, our facial expressions, the voice tone, the non-verbal body language, it's all there. And taken to the extreme of truth or lies really brings out the interesting and important things about that. So I think it's one of life's really invaluable skills to be able to judge credibility in other people. Without that, you know, you could lose a lot of money, and you could also, you know, lose a lot of happiness too. So I think after this webinar, and certainly after the course if you are going to take it, the world will be a bigger and more interesting place. You will see more. There will be things there that you'll notice that you haven't noticed before, and that's what I would wish for you, a bigger world. So then let's move on. This is a course that is developed by Paul Ekman. I believe that you've probably heard of Paul Ekman, one of the great names of psychology in the 20th century. his work was originally through emotions. He researched emotions. He was the researcher who discovered that some emotions have universal facial expressions. And of course, at the time when he discovered this through his research, people thought that they were actually culturally different, that emotions were shown differently on the face in different cultures. He showed this wasn't so. It's true that some cultures, and I'm talking from Japan, have a lot of display rules about how much and where and who you can show emotion to, but the basic expression of the emotion is going to be the same whether you're in Tokyo, whether you're in London, whether you're in Dublin, whether you're in São Paulo or Minnesota. And from this work on emotions that he did, it brought him into the field of credibility, of truth and deception, because of course telling the truth or lying engages your brain and also your emotions. To lie is stressful. There's a lot of emotions involved in lying. It can trigger emotions like guilt and shame and fear of being caught, as well as what Ekman calls duping delight, which is the pleasure of putting one over on somebody. So there's a lot of emotions involved. And through his work on credibility and lie detection, here, of course, then immediately the FBI got interested, the Homeland Security, lots of security, police got extremely interested in that question. You know, how can you tell if someone is lying? This is a really, really important question. And then you may have seen the series Lie to Me on TV. It ran 3 series altogether. Interesting, based on Paul Ekman's work. The main character was a guy called Cal Lightman, and it was based on Ekman's work and the kind of consultancy that Ekman does in the United States. And Paul Ekman was the consultant on that series. Didn't act in it, of course, but he was the consultant on the first series. So, people are the best lie detectors. You know, human beings are the best lie detectors. The so-called lie detector scientific equipment, or polygraph, it doesn't detect lies. It detects arousal, and you have no idea where that arousal comes from. It may be because the person is lying, but it may be because they are nervous, or they're afraid that they're not going to be believed. Now, it's pretty important to be able to know if somebody's credible or telling the truth. In fact, our whole economy is built on it. You see the next slide there, that's a picture of a Bank of England £50 note, and if you look at one, it says that I promise on demand to pay the bearer the sum of £50. So trust, the basis of all our relationships, even of money, which is the hardest thing of all, is based on something soft like trust. So, okay, and then I think I said after that about lie detection, and people are the best lie detectors, not the polygraph, not the so-called machine that's supposed to detect lies. It doesn't detect lies, it detects arousal. And that arousal could be simply because you're nervous or you're afraid of not being believed. Now, so how good are we at detecting lies? You know, you might want to do a little quiz here. If you want to type any answers into the box, that's great. My first question would be, you know, how good do you think you are as a lie detector? And then the second question would be, what sort of percentage do you think average people get on detecting lies? You know, if 100% is you're absolutely sure when it's a lie and you know the truth from a lie, you're right every time, that's 100%. And 0% is you get it wrong every time. And 50% is chance. So where do you think most people lie? What's the average for people? You take a guess. Let me tell you, the average for most people is 54%. In other words, they're right 54% of the time, which is just a fraction better than chance. So really, we're not that good. Let's think about professions. Police. Do you think the police are, what do you think the percentage for police is? 54%. They think they're better, they're more confident, but overall, the figures don't bear it out. Lawyers, 54%. Doctors, 54%. Psychologists, 54%. Customs officers, 54%. There's only two groups of people that do considerably better than 54%. They can go up to 70 or 75%. Two groups of people. Like to take a guess on who those two groups are? You can type it in if you like, or just kind of think to yourself, who might they be? They're not teachers. One is actually mothers, only for their children. One is actually Secret Service agents, which you might expect, because their life can depend on that, can't it? So they are very strongly motivated to do that. Secret Service agents get better than 54%. They get about 70, 75%. And the other group is prisoners. Prisoners are very good at detecting deception because they're exposed to it all the time. And I guess there's one other group of people who do better than 54%, and that's the people who come on the ETAC course. Okay, moving on. Communication. We're talking about communication. We communicate all the time through our voice, our body language, our facial expressions, and of course our words. Thinking and feeling. That's what communication is about. We think and we feel. And these two always go together. Yeah, emotions and thinking always go together. It's a process. So when we talk, whether we're telling the truth or lying or just communicating generally, there's always emotions involved. There's always thinking involved. So it matters. These two things matter. We use words and we use all the non-verbal stuff, the voice tone, body language, facial expression. So what we're after here, what we're thinking about, and what we want as coaches certainly, is congruence, what we might call congruence, trustworthy action, spontaneous and consistent. You can trust someone if they're consistent, and spontaneity, which you can't force, you can't say be spontaneous, you can't try to be spontaneous. Spontaneity is a very good indication of somebody who's being credible, who's being congruent. So when these line up, you get congruence. When there's a clash, emotions come in that perhaps shouldn't be there. Thinking is disturbed because we're afraid that we're having to keep track of lies. It's going to show up. It's going to show up in all the communication channels in different ways. So if it shows up and one person is lying or telling the truth, then one person listens, as Homer Simpson says. So if one person's going to lie, one person is listening, then how are they going to tell? So let's move on then to what we're talking about. When I say a lie or truth, what do I mean? What is a lie and a truth? So we need a quick definition here. This is Paul Ekman's definitions. They're pretty good. Truth is a sincere attempt to provide accurate information. Okay, so it's sincere. In other words, you want to. It comes from inside you, and you're trying to provide accurate information. So if I, for example, if I told you, if I really believed that São Paulo was the capital of Brazil, and I really told you this, and I really believed it, I sincerely told you as a piece of information, I wouldn't be lying, even though it's not true. Brasilia is the capital of Brazil. So you need to be aware of that. So it's possible to provide bad information but not tell a lie if you truly believe it yourself, according to this definition. And lying is deliberately choosing to mislead. So again, deliberate, you want to do it, you're conscious of it, choosing to mislead someone without giving prior notification. Otherwise, actors in a stage play would be liars, and they're not. You go into a play, and the context is such that those people on stage are not in real life. You know, they are playing to you. You have prior notification that what's going on there is not true in the real world. Now, we're not getting into judgments here, because there's lots of fascinating ideas around, well, when should you lie or not lie, and is it good to lie sometimes? And there's all those white lies, social lies that kind of oil the wheels of social communication. So we're not going to get into that. There's plenty of lying according to this definition going around. According to some figures, you meet someone for the first time and they're talking about themselves, you're going to get 3 lies in 10 minutes. or to be accurate about the figure, it's 2.54 lies in 10 minutes. So, you know, people are not necessarily going to tell you the truth the whole time. Now, signals then. We talk about signals. We're talking about communication, lying and truth. What are the signals that you're going to be looking for? So imagine every human being has a clear universal signal that reveals their genuine feelings about what you're saying to them and what they're thinking. That could be really useful, and it could be a real problem. You know, if we were all Pinocchio and our nose grew every time we lied, this would be very difficult, wouldn't it? I mean, it would make life extremely difficult, a real problem. So perhaps it's just as well that we don't have Pinocchio's nose. Now, this communication system that we have when we talk, and the signaling that we give, is about emotions, how we feel. And if we take Paul Ekman's definition of emotions, emotions help us to deal with important things without thinking. We don't have to think about it. If there's a sudden danger, then we react. We don't have to think about it. If we're driving along and a car suddenly comes in front of us, we don't think, oh, I think I'd better turn the wheel here and a few degrees to the right and make sure I avoid that cyclist. It just happens. We don't have to think about it. If a shadow comes in the dark when we're walking along, we feel afraid. We don't have choice. Sometimes we just get angry. We don't want to get angry, but we do. So it happens without conscious awareness. This is what makes it so genuine. This is what makes emotions so genuine. We can't control them consciously. They come from a deeper place within us, and they've been very important for our survival. So emotions can save your life. You know, the energy of anger might save your life. The fear might cause you to run away and save your life. And enrich your life, happiness, all the pleasures that we get, enrich your life. Motivate behavior, certainly anger motivates behavior, fear motivates behavior, happiness, all our emotions motivate our behavior, including telling the truth and lying. And they're essential to building relationships. If we're sad, people can see that we're sad, we are comforted. When we're happy, we bond with people, we make relationships. So emotions are really important. We can't control them, as I said. They are coordinated and organized. In other words, when we feel happiness, a lot of things happen together. You know, we smile, our eyes twinkle, we feel warm. If we feel angry, then our blood pressure will go up, we might get red in the face, our face will change. All these things are coordinated together by the very basic parts of our brain over which consciousness does not control. And they have reliable universal signals on the face, as I said, courtesy of Paul Ekman. So this makes them very, very useful in terms of being able to distinguish between lies and truth. So I'm moving along quite quickly here because we lost a little bit of time. There are 7 emotions which have universal facial expressions. First is sadness. We can recognize when someone's sad. Anger. We'd better recognize when someone gets angry. Surprise. maybe a surprising one. Happiness, you would probably have guessed that one. We all recognize when other people are happy. Fear, very important one. Contempt. Contempt is an interesting one. It's a kind of one-up, arrogant expression that sometimes we say you look down your nose at somebody. Contempt. And disgust, which is what the two people on the left are showing. One is a tribesman from the highlands of New Guinea, and the other is an American child who looks like she doesn't like broccoli. So those 7 emotions have universal facial expressions. So we're going to look quickly at these universal facial expressions of emotion, because they are such useful signals. In the course, on the ETAC course, of course, we're going to go into the other signals about credibility and deception, the body language, which is really interesting about body language. There's a lot of myths about body language of deception, whether people look at you or not, whether they fidget or what they do. So the body language is extremely interesting. Voice tone changes, that's extremely interesting to look at. The way people change their talking, very interesting to look at that too. And of course the words, analyzing the way that we talk and the words that come out also can give you very strong clues about deception. Because if you think about it, when you're describing a memory of something that really happened, in other words telling the truth, you're going to talk, it's going to present itself in your mind, and you're going to talk about it in a different way to something that you're constructing and making up. So we can also look at the words. But just in this very short webinar, I just want to focus on the emotions because they are so interesting and clear. And again, briefly to go through the 7 of them. Don't worry about all the little numbers. This simply means the muscle groups that we have, the muscle groups in our face all have numbers. And it's been well established which particular muscle groups produce which particular expressions. There's about, I think there's 48 muscles in the face, which is a lot of muscles for such a small area, which shows how important it is for signaling communication to each other. Now, if you're going to look at emotion, you've got to start with a neutral face. And there's the neutral face on the left, without any expression. Anger, the first one up there, you can see that the mouth, the lips are rolled in, that the mouth is tight, although sometimes people will kind of shout in anger and the mouth is very open, baring the teeth. But usually you'll see the lips roll in. You'll see the eyebrows go down and come together, and the eyes will kind of glare because the eyelids at the bottom go tight. So those are the signs of anger, and they are the same all over the world in all human beings. Contempt, there's contempt next. It's a kind of one-sided smile. It's the only emotion that is unilateral, goes one side. And you've probably seen people do that. It shows they feel superior to you. Disgust raises the upper lip and raises the, kind of wrinkles the nose. And disgust is when literally, you know, we are disgusted with something. It can be something nasty smelling or food that we don't like or some opinion of people or people that we don't like. We can be disgusted by certain groups of people. So that's the disgust expression. The fear expression going down on the left. The mouth goes across, is stretched. The eyebrows go up and the eyes open wide. The eyebrows also go together. So the eyebrows go up, but they're also drawn together. And the mouth goes across. So you see someone looking like that, staring at something behind you, you look round. You wouldn't ignore that expression. There's clearly something bad happening. Happy is an easy one. Smile, the upper lip the lips are drawn, the corners of the lips are drawn upwards. But also, very importantly, the eyes are, the muscle around the eye contracts, so the eyes kind of become more thinner actually, and you get kind of crow's feet showing. Unless you have the involvement of the eyes, the smile has no warmth and no pleasure in it. The false smile. People often use a false smile just with the mouth to cover up other emotions. So if you don't see the involvement of the eyes, that kind of crinkling of the eyes, then it's not genuine. Sad, mouth corners go down. The inside of the eyebrows go up, and very often together. And finally, the surprise, mouth goes open, eyebrows go up, but they go straight up, they're not drawn together, and the eyes are also opened. Surprise and fear can look a little bit the same, but in fear, the mouth goes sideways and the eyebrows go up and together, whereas in surprise, the mouth drops down and the eyebrows just go up. Those are our 7 universal signals, facial signals of emotion. So you can see that if you're talking with someone and what their words are saying, they're describing some happy event, or they're saying that it's happy, and yet you see signs of the sad face. And remember that emotions are not consciously controlled. You can't stop them, so it will appear on the face and it will be genuine. You know that there's some incongruence there. Now, you don't know that they're lying. You don't know that what they're sad about. All you know is there's something there that is important in that context, that is incongruent. Now, in a coaching session, you might choose to ask about that, and certainly I can give you many examples of when clients have been talking about something and they've had an expression of emotion that I've noticed, sometimes it's very quick, that hasn't fitted with what they're talking about. And I will ask them about that. And it's invariably an extremely important aspect of that they wouldn't necessarily have offered unless I asked. So it's extremely useful in coaching because it's a communication, and it's a genuine communication of emotion that comes through the face. Now, the expressions on the face can be very subtle. You don't necessarily get the whole thing showing up at once. It can be just a little something in the mouth, just something in the eyes. Also, you can have what's called micro expressions, which are less than 1/5 of a second. Those expressions flash over the face in less than 1/5 of a second. So you've really got to be paying attention. And the reason for that is that, as I say, they're not under conscious control. They come onto the face, and then you realize perhaps that it's come onto the face, and you can squash them. You get rid of them, or you cover them with a smile. But they are there for 1/5 of a second at least. These are called micro-expressions. And on the ETAC course, we have some fun with kind of little test on and training on seeing micro-expressions. So you'll see a face and it'll flash up an expression in 1/5 of a second, and then your job is to say which one it is. And with training, you can get very good at this. It seems really difficult at first, but after a little bit of training, you'll be able to spot these. It's really interesting to do that. So that's the micro-expressions. Some very important golden rules when we're talking about credibility, deception, congruence. Watch and listen. You've got to watch and listen. You've got to know what you're watching and listening for, otherwise it's useless. And that's what ETAC is about, so that you know what to watch and listen for. You don't jump to conclusions. You may see something, but you have to ask good questions in order to find out what it means. And this is where the skill of coaching comes in. So with this training, you'll get far more information because you'll see far more in the communication channels. But then your skill as a coach will come in and you'll be able to ask good questions and not jump to conclusions, which other people might do. So if you see an emotion, you don't know why, you have to ask. Or not. Maybe you don't ask. Once you start to see these things, you don't want to go around, what Paul Ekman says, rummaging in people's emotional handbags without permission. You know, just like you wouldn't open somebody's handbag and go, oh, what you got in here? Oh, yeah, that's interesting. If somebody's showing an emotion and they, you know, it's a micro expression, they wipe it off their face, they may not want you to know about it. So you don't necessarily ask about it. So there is some ethical constraints here about what's appropriate and what's reasonable and what permission you have to ask about what you see, because there's no doubt about it, you will see more. And there is a third, I guess, a third golden rule that I mentioned before. There is no Pinocchio's nose. It doesn't exist. There is no absolutely foolproof 100% way of telling someone's lying. Thank goodness. You have to watch and listen and ask questions. But if you do watch and listen and ask questions, and if you watch and listen and ask good questions, and you know what you're watching and listening for, then you can be very successful. And as I say, this is not just about lying, it's about really seeing more in people's communication, hearing more in their words, seeing more in their faces, understanding the basis of what they're feeling and thinking, regardless of the conversation. It doesn't have to be about lies and truth. That's why I say it's really interesting, because it really takes you to the limit when you're talking about lies and truth. But this sort of stuff about communication, it's just about communication skills and emotional intelligence. Okay, so how are we doing for time? Pretty good. I've gone through that pretty quickly. I'm just going to give you a little bit of practice here. There's, what's her name? Julia Roberts. One of them has a real genuine smile of pleasure, one face, and the other face has a kind of smile for the camera, but I'm not really happy, a false smile. So take a look at those two, and which one would you say is the real smile? Is it the one on the right as you look at it, or is it the one on the left? Watch the eyes. Look at the eyes. And if you look at the eyes and ignore the mouth, it's pretty clear that the one on the right is the genuine smile. It involves the eyes. You can see the pouches below the eyes in the face on the right because of the muscle around the eye has contracted. You don't see those pouches on the left. So that's why the one on the right is a genuine smile. The one on the right, on the left, is not the genuine smile. Are these people really happy, or are they just smiling for the camera? What do you reckon? I've got to say, I don't see a lot of genuine happiness around the eyes. If you were to take a piece of paper and block the mouth, so you're not distracted by the mouth, and just look at the eyes, there's not a lot of happiness there. So these two people are smiling for the camera. And that's fine, you know, nothing wrong with that. They're smiling for the camera. But we, as we know a bit more about facial expressions and emotions, we can start to pick up these sort of points. So what's this guy feeling? What emotion is he feeling? You want to type in what you think he's feeling? Look at the mouth, especially on the right-hand side as you look at it. This guy is looking down his nose at somebody. He is having contempt. Yeah, contempt. But you can see it's almost like he is looking down his nose, that expression of looking down your nose at someone. You feel superior. There's a little bit of that hint just in the mouth there going up to on our right. It's just a little bit further across than the other side of the mouth. So contempt from him. Moving on. What's Barack Obama feeling? Looks certainly like some anger. Yep. The mouth there, the tightness of the lips, the brows are down. The bottom of the eyelid is tense. You can see that. The eyes are narrower than they would normally be. It's a kind of little squint. That's what happens when you're angry. That muscle tightens at the bottom of your eyelid. So yes, Obama is angry. The guy who isn't in focus behind him looks kind of, what's going on over there? He looks kind of curious. How about this guy? He looks pretty angry too, doesn't he? You see the mouth is open here. But if you look at the eyebrows, the way that they come down and together, and the eyes, again, tightness at the bottom, this guy is angry. I like the guy over behind him on the right with the glasses. You know, he's really annoyed. It's like, oh my God, what's happened here? He's really clenching his lips together there, really pressing them together. It's almost a more interesting face than the one in focus. This is an occasion in a summit, I think last year, where Vladimir Putin on the left there and Angela Merkel in the green on the right were suddenly surprised by a streaker who was protesting about something. So if you look at Putin, there's certainly some surprise there. Yeah, the eyebrows are up. He is surprised. He may even be a little bit shocked. It's made him jump. Angela Merkel over there on the right, more like a contempt. She's not impressed. Here's another occasion which you may remember. I think it was earlier this year. This was at a commemoration ceremony for Nelson Mandela, and Obama and Michelle Obama, his wife, were there, and so was the Danish Prime Minister, who is the blonde lady in black sitting on the left there. And Obama wasn't very, shall we say, basically he went over to talk to her, and he talked to her for rather a long time, and he showed her quite a lot of attention to her, and then he had a selfie taken with her and David Cameron. And then when he came to sit back with his wife, Michelle, what's she feeling? He's kissing her hand, please forgive me, but you can see that she is not happy. See the mouth, see the eyebrows down. You know, she is angry. She was very angry. If you look at pictures or footage of that whole incident, you'll see that she is absolutely incandescent. So there's Obama trying to make up. I think it's nice too. There's all these other people all around pretending nothing's happened. They're looking off into the distance. Nothing happening there. Yeah, it's all right. So just I thought I'd give you a few pictures there just to practice. That's the course. That's when it's going to be, and I'm going to be training it together with my wife and partner Andrea Lages. It'll be great fun, fast-moving, practical, videos to analyze, lots of exercises, and great theories to come to grips with. So then I'd really like to open now in the time that we've got left. I know that I've gone quite quickly because we missed some time at the beginning. But any questions or comments that you have, just put up your hand. Abigail will open the mic for you, and I'll respond as best I can. So over to you.
Okay, so if you have any questions or comments, you can raise your hand or let me know in the questions box. Okay, so Joseph, Helen has a question.
Okay.
Hi, Helen.
Hi. I'm curious about the groups that were at 70%, the Secret Service agents and the prisoners. And thank you. It's been a very, very useful and informative session. And I'm particularly interested in that. I work partly in the adoption and fostering world. And so quite often kids who've been adopted and fostered come from backgrounds where parents have been in prison, etc., etc. And lies and deceit is something that's very common to them. So I'm curious about that. I'm also curious about the source, because I would like to investigate that more, please.
Sorry, you're curious about what? What was the second thing?
The 70%, the fact that a higher percentage of people who can detect lies include prisoners. That's something I found very interesting.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's, you think if we take a step back, we might think, why aren't we good at detecting deception? You'd think we might be pretty good at it. It seems to be important. Trust is the basis of our relationship, so why aren't we better at it, left to ourselves? And I guess, for me anyway, one of the reasons is we don't get feedback. We don't actually, somebody may be talking with you and you may think, oh, I don't really believe them, but then you may never see them again. So you don't know, you don't get feedback on your judgment. Now, if you're in prison, you're going to get a lot of feedback because you're in close proximity and conflict with a lot of people who are much more likely for a start to try and deceive you and put one over on you. So first of all, as a survival mechanism, you've got to get good. And secondly, you are going to get feedback about it, because if you're wrong, there will be consequences and you can't escape them. So I think that's probably one reason why prisoners are much better than the average. And for Secret Service agents, again, my guess is that they're trained, of course, but then so are police. But Secret Service agents, very often their life depends on them being able to tell truth from lie. So they are particularly well motivated to be able to do this, and as well as they get extremely good training with good feedback. So I guess that's the main reasons I would say. It is very interesting. I thought I was amazed when just about everybody it's just slightly better than chance, because usually we think we're pretty good, I certainly did before I went on ETAC. I thought, yeah, I can. Oh, good. And the first exercise, which was really interesting, where we tell stories which may be lies or truth, and then we see if we can detect that from various clues. I couldn't. I was no better than chance. But once you know what to look for and you have some practice and feedback, then things change. So thank you for that question.
Could I just if I wanted to get more on the research on that, where would I go? What would be the source?
Send me an email and I'll send you some source research articles. Brilliant.
I will do. Thank you very much indeed. And again, thank you for a really interesting session.
Good, thanks.
And well done, and thanks for persisting with the technical challenges.
Well, thank you for staying. Okay, thanks. And somebody else has a question, comment.
Joseph, Tina wants to know if they will receive the slides from the presentation.
Yes, you will. You'll get the recording and the slides if you want it. Certainly.
Good, great. Any other questions or comments? Please feel free to let us know. Okay, so...
Any other questions?
Not for the time being, apparently. Apparently you are very clear.
Well, I want to believe that. So I think I will.
Joseph, Jill is asking what else will the program cover?
The program will cover, well, the title of the program, as we say, Evaluating Truth and Credibility. So there will be psychological models of, well, explorations of truth and lies, of course, then psychological models of what is truth, what does it mean when you tell the truth, you know, what goes on in your body and brain when you tell the truth, and what goes on in your body and brain when you tell lies, emotionally and cognitively, so that we get a model of that. And what's interesting about that, of course, is that there is what's called leakage from when people deceive, because there is conflicting emotions and there is conflicting thoughts, and when these come together and there's a clash, it leaks out in some way, in micro expressions, in body language, in particular ways of talking in the words, and those are the things then we're looking out for, that leakage. Lots of practice, analyzing videos of people going through customs, which is very interesting, quite stressful in itself for everybody, whether you're trying to smuggle something or not. So analyzing videos, we look at memory, the characteristics of memory. I mentioned that when you're talking about something that really happened, telling the truth, then as opposed to constructing something, you talk about it in a different way. So there are quite a few characteristics, thinking now about the words that people use and the constructions that they use and how they talk about it, that can give you very good clues about whether someone is actually remembering something or someone is actually making it up. So we look into the nature of memory and the importance of memory. We'll also be, of course, going through those emotional expressions in much more detail, practicing recognizing micro expressions, and telling each other stories which may or may not be true, in order to test this out. So it's a lot of fun. Those are the main points of it. And just one more thing, science-based, because heaven knows there are so many books on, you know, how to tell if people are lying, and a lot of it is just nonsense. I've got to be honest here. It's just myth. There's so many myths about lying, and it's a subject, you know. But we don't know some of the beliefs that people have about what people are like when they lie. They're totally wrong, or they're even the opposite of what happens. For example, people often think that liars will do more kind of grooming gestures, more manipulators, you know, touch their face, comb their hair, scratch their trousers, or whatever it might be. That's not true. That actually, it's more likely that they will not do so many of those manipulative movements. So it's good to expose some myths as well. So I do hope that I'll be able to see you all there on the 10th of June. I'm not sure exactly where it is. Somewhere in central London. Association of Coaching has the address, but they will certainly tell you about it. Unless there's any more questions, then it's 10 o'clock here in Tokyo, so I think I'll probably go and have a beer and some peanuts down in the bar.
Yep, no more questions here, Joseph.
Good. Okay.
Many
well,
thanks.
thank you all very much for sparing the time. Thank you very much for persisting when we had technical problems, and I hope that I'll see you in June in London on the course. So, good night from Tokyo.